Joining us now, State Senator, Petersburg, Democrat, Joe Morrissey. Senator, great to have you with us.
Thank you, John. I've been on for the last 10 minutes. I've been listening to your pronunciations and your predictions and your populist message. I'm always around, John.
When's your move-in date?
Move-in date over to the studio?
Yes.
October 31st.
I'm putting you on the spot. Okay. Sounds like it's going to be soon.
It is. Listen, you need me.
That's your favorite answer to everything. Everything is soon. I don't know what soon means, but it's a good answer. I mean, it kind of.
I've challenged Ann to move us over there so I can pick up the Joe Morrissey show again, the Fighting Joe Morrissey show. Let's be clear, John. The most popular show on the John Fredericks Radio Network was the Fighting Joe Morrissey show. That's a fact.
Yes. Oh, there's no question. In fact, I was hooked on it. You know, I don't have time to tune into all the other shows. I'll tune in, Steve Bannon for the first half hour, but then I'm busy. But when your show came on, man, I was addicted. I mean, it was fun. It was interesting. I learned stuff, and so yeah, we're looking forward to having you back on the stations. And now we're bigger and better than ever. We got a lot to talk about, Joe, in the short time that we have here. Senator Joe Morrissey with us. Senator, first, your thoughts on the debate.
First of all, John, I watched the entire debate. I was very, very surprised at Trump's performance. To the extent that his performance in Cleveland caused his campaign to move south, his performance last night was a marked and measurable improvement. And if he wins this race, the turning point will be the October 22nd debate in Nashville. I mean, where there was chaos and confusion in Cleveland, there was more pleasantness, calmness, deliberateness, a measured response by the president. No question, and this is coming from a Democrat, that he won that debate last night. And I'll get into the specifics in a few moments.
Joe Biden, let's get to him a minute. I thought Joe Biden had a pretty terrible performance last night. He looked frail. He looked confused. He never really laid out a plan for anything. Trump finally got him on the fact that he's going to get us out of the oil industry, the oil exploration business, costing hundreds of thousands of jobs.
Let me stop you right there. One of the most crucial parts of the debate last night and favorable parts for Trump was when he started talking about Biden's support or lack of support for fracking. And he very cleverly, the president said, really, that's news to people in Oklahoma, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Those are the, particularly the latter two, battleground states. And that hurt Biden immeasurably, and the president seized on it. Here's what happened last night. The president, I guess he fired the person who prepped him for the first debate, and he started talking about issues. And it was in a calm, measured tone when he talked about the coronavirus, climate change, the border crossing, race, economy. And then he did it in a manner that called Biden to the carpet. And this, my evaluation or summary, is coming from a Democrat. I was disappointed in the way he handled things. I'll give you an example. When he talked about coronavirus, he said to Biden, and he said it calmly, not in his normal strident fashion. He said, I'm the guy who closed the border to China. I shut it down, thereby saving probably hundreds of thousands of lives. You accuse me of being xenophobic. But I did the correct thing. So which is it? Was I correct in closing down the borders, or was I xenophobic? And that was an important point. The fracking issue was important. When the president talked about the way Biden handled the swine flu and how it was a far less horrific disease, but the manner in which he handled it was poor. And here's the best point that he made, and he did it quietly and deliberately. He said, Mr. Vice President, you had 8 years as Vice President, 40 years in Congress to do something, but in 8 years, you failed, and he lists a host of areas where he failed. But you were the person in charge then. That was a very telling point for in the debate, I thought.
Look, I agree with that, and the president hammered on that over and over. Like, you were there 8 years. You keep telling me what you're going to do. You didn't do it. And he said, you're just a typical politician. All talk, you don't do anything. I thought one of the best lines he said, too, is he said, the fact that you didn't do anything is why I ran and why I got elected. It's the exact same reason. And here we are. We're back to the same square. You're not doing anything again. And he said you had 47 years to accomplish this stuff and did nothing. So all of a sudden you're going to do it all. I thought that was very effective last night. Now,
it was. He looked at him and he said calmly and deliberately, I ran for this office because of you. And then he did something that was interesting. He ran as an outsider, the president. He talked about failed career politicians.
Right.
And he said, you've been here 47 years. Of course, Biden was elected to the Senate when he was 29 and took office when he was 30. And Biden seemed to be really stumped and surprised when he said, I ran because of you. And here is another point. The 1994 crime bill was Biden's low point in the Senate. Mm-hmm. Tens of thousands of African Americans that folks that, and I represent in the state Senate a large population of African Americans. They were incarcerated because of the 1994 crime bill. Mm-hmm. And the president finally turned that around on him and said, you failed miserably there. Mm-hmm. That was an important point. Mm-hmm. And then I thought he summarized the coronavirus well when he said, we closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this virus that came from China. And here, this was smart. He said, it's not my fault that it came from China. And then he said something brilliant. It's not your fault either, Joe. It's China's fault. That
was good.
Point resonated.
Very good.
So I think where Trump failed miserably in the first debate, that was his lowest point. This final debate was a high point. I would expect to see a bump in the polls, a significant bump.
Well, I think
not just me calling it the way it is.
No, look, I appreciate it. I'm going to go a step further. I think he won the election based on his performance last night, and I thought he was presidential. He was measured. He was very effective. And again, you saw the contrast of the career failed politician. You also saw the difference in energy. We're coming out of a pandemic. We need somebody high energy to get our economy rolling again. I'm not sure Biden inspired that sort of confidence.
Well, here's why, John. Listen, politicians, you have to be positive. And while I think that the president was overly optimistic when he said the vaccine is right around the corner, light is at the end of the tunnel, Joe Biden went the complete opposite direction, and he said, we're heading into a dark winter. He didn't come up with that phrase just then. That was given to him to share, and I'm telling you, I don't want to hear that we're heading into a dark winter. I want to know what are the possibilities out there that we can be successful. Show me where we have an opportunity to be successful. How do we beat this? How do we win? That's what I want to know, not what he said about we're heading into a dark winter. People do not want to hear about, doom and devastation, that Armageddon is around the corner. That's not what they want to hear, John.
I agree with you, because that was a very negative message. People are tired of this pandemic, and I thought one of the best things, too, that the president said is, look, we have to live with it. We choose to live. I mean, there's some risks involved, he said. Obviously, we have to protect the elderly, but people want to live. And he said, you want to just go and hide in your basement, and we all just can't go and hide in the basement. People want to get out there, want to live. Joe, you go to the South, and I'm an SEC football fan. You go to a Georgia game, they got 30,000 people. You go to an Alabama game, they got 32,000. Go to Florida State, 25,000. You go to Trump's rallies, 25,000. People want to live. They're not lining up Athens, Georgia after a football game with body bags and refrigerator trucks. I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, as you know. 25 Titans got COVID-19. They're 5-0, right? They're undefeated. Obviously, it didn't affect their performance. We have to live. I think that's what the president got. Now, and Senator Joe Morrissey, Senator, I'm going to get to cut 18. Here's Tony Bobulinski. He said, I heard Joe Biden say that he has never discussed business deals with Hunter. Sorry, false. Cut 18.
I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden in dealings with the Chinese. I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false.
Joe Morrissey, what do you think of this?
Okay, first of all, I was very, very disappointed about two things. Number one, that Bobulinski, and I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly,
Yep.
came on an hour and a half before this interview.
Yeah.
And he had the evidence. He had the laptop. He had the email. And let's be clear, he has some axe to grind. That's clear, okay? But he has evidence of some communications wherein Vice President Biden was involved in, and his son, Bella, I'm on the phone, in Biden's dealings. Now, here's what I'm disappointed at. First and foremost, this is news, but it wasn't covered by mainstream media. That's wrong. When we get into a society or a country where only Fox covers one thing and CNN covers another, and you're not reporting what's going on, that's bad, and it's not transparent. It's bad for the country. That there has to be an accountability and a day of reckoning for those media folks that didn't cover it. Number two, when the president tried to go into it, last night, I did not like the fact that the moderator hushed him up and they went on to something else. Okay, whether it's true or not, the vice president did not deny that was the son's laptop, that those emails were real. And there was a very telling email that said, don't mention Joe, that meant Joe Biden, in text or emails, just do it face to face. Now, I've been a prosecutor, I've been a defense attorney, I followed the evidence. That's damning. But what I find more damning than anything is the media's failure to cover it. That was wrong.
All right, Joe, let's get to cut 19. In his press conference, Bobulinski says, tomorrow I'm going to provide the Senate and FBI evidence corroborating what I said. Cut 19.
Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the Senate committee members concerning this matter, and I will be providing to the FBI the devices which contain the evidence corroborating what I have said.
All right, so that's going on today, but I'm going to get to cut 20 here and get your comments. This is probably the most damning 26 seconds, and I think it's going to sink Biden's campaign. Here's Bobulinski says, in my hour-long meeting with the vice president, with Joe Biden, former vice president time, we discussed the Biden's business dealings with the Chinese, which he was plainly familiar. Cut 20.
On May 2nd, 2017, the night before Joe Biden was to appear at the Milken Conference, I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level.
All right, so Joe, if you were a prosecutor looking at this, what would your reaction be?
My reaction is that there is definitely a connection between all of the Bidens and Chinese business dealings. And here's where the vice president made, I think, a huge blunder. He should have come right out and at the very beginning and said, listen, my son was involved with Chinese business dealings. He also has made some poor choices in his life. I'm not going to cover those up. But my son isn't running for president of the United States. I am running for president. That's the response. But instead, he said, he referred to the laptop and the e-text and the messages and the Bo Belinsky's press conference as a Russian hoax. No, it's not. And you know me, John. You know me that I am that person that just I'm straight down the line. Some Democrats don't like me because of that. Some Republicans don't like me because of that. I just follow the evidence and I report factually. So it's troubling. Now here's what's going to happen. It's 10 days, 11 days before the election. The issue is this: can Bo Belinsky's comments and the information that he provides to a Senate congressional committee create enough brouhaha to affect voters? That I don't know the answer to that. I do know what the Democratic response is going to be. It's simply an October surprise. Don't be fooled, people. And the Republicans are going to say this is mind blowing. This is the most important issue of the entire campaign. Depending on who gets the message out, that will determine, I think, the election.
Joe, Scott Taylor's with us, running for Congress in the 2nd District. I know you served with Scott when you were in the House, House of Delegates, and he's we believe he's going to win. He just popped in, and he's going to be with us for the next segment. So, Scott, you heard Joe. Joe's pretty straight up one way or the other. He's going to tell you what he thinks. What do you think of this guy? I mean, he goes in there. And in fact, the only question the reporter asked him was, who paid you to be here, which I thought was kind of asinine. But, Scott, you look at this. I mean, you're Navy SEAL. You've been a House member. You've been in Congress. What do you make of this?
All right. Well, look. First of all, it's good to be with you, John. It's good to be with Joe, and I enjoyed, of course, serving with him. And as you said, he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks, and I'd certainly appreciate that about him. And the reality is, this is very newsworthy. There hasn't been a denial of the authenticity of these emails by the Biden family or by anyone, quite frankly. And as you said, this press conference when the business partner, he laid it out like this is what we have. This is the laptop. These are the emails, and these are powerful facts that the public deserves to know. Whatever side you're on, whatever you think, this is very newsworthy. And the notion that mainstream media, NPR, and these other folks aren't going to cover this, I mean, that is a disservice to the American people. And quite frankly, I think it's interference in the election.
So, comment, Joe.
Well, Scott is spot on. It's irrespective of whatever political party or persuasion you follow or agree with, we expect our media to cover things fairly and neutrally. Now, yes, there will be a slant, whether it's Fox or CNN, but to not even cover a major development where somebody says, here is the evidence of Biden being involved in Chinese doings is troubling to me. Mm-hmm. And listen, I am not. I'm a Democrat. I have supported Biden. That's not the issue here. The issue is whether or not in political discourse and in this country we are going to have mediums that disseminate information. They do it fairly and neutrally. If I were a ardent ABC, NBC, CBS fan, and they didn't cover this, I'm upset right now. Mm-hmm. I want to know Why didn't those major networks cover an issue as important?
Right, just cover it. You don't have to advocate. Just cover it.
John, the editor of the NPR actually said they wrote something saying why they're not covering it, saying they're not going to waste their time and waste their listeners' time or readers' time on non-stories. This is a big story. It's a big story. Yeah. I mean, again, no matter like Joe said, no matter where you fall, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. These are some powerful facts that the public deserves to know. Period.
John, I am a follower. I listen to NPR, okay, because I want my news to be unbiased. Right. I can't tell you how disappointed I am about this, okay? Mm-hmm. And if they simply had covered it and then showed that Bo Belinsky has an axe to grind, that he was eased out, that he's got money in the game that he lost, that's fine. But cover it. And when you when you show somebody that here is the last laptop, do a forensic analysis of the hard drive, do a forensic analysis of the chains of email, and tell us whether or not they are legit, they are truthful.
I mean,
that's what I want.
Could you imagine if it was the exact opposite? If this was somebody saying that there was an email that there was Eric Trump left his laptop somewhere, and all this stuff was on it about Trump getting money. I mean, every fake news media in the world would have been at that press conference. So this thing is so ridiculous. I'm going to play one more clip, Joe, and then get your comment and take off for a second. Then we got Scott. 21. Let's get to 21, Kara. Here's Bo Belinsky again. He said, "There's no question. H stands for Hunter, and the big guy is Joe Biden." Cut 21.
On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman. On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face. In fact, I was advised by Gillier and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
Joe, final word, and I'll let you go.
I think that any of the mainstream media that did not cover this story is going to be penalized by the public, by the viewing audience. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. I am very disappointed that a story was not covered. I would have been happy if they had covered it and then said, but listen, look at what the person's angle is. Right. This is why he's saying that. I would have been happy with that, but to not cover it does a disservice to the people in this country.
Right. Joe, I'm going to let you go. Joe Morrissey, Senator Joe Morrissey with us.